Hello and welcome. My name is Nick. I'm from Holden Tech, and today we get to review a brand new product from Bluetti. This is their small yet mighty Bluetti AC2A. This unit is small, it's lightweight. We're going to go ahead and unbox it together. We're going to see what's actually in the box, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the specifications of this product, and we'll do some testing as well. Let's go ahead and get this thing open. Okay. Okay, so what do we have inside? We have like a Russian doll of boxes. One box inside another, which is kind of really nice because the shipping box is ideal for sending this thing through the mail or getting it delivered, but then you still have almost perfectly intact inner box as well. What do we have in here? We have what looks like the accessories, and then we have this little dinky power station. Let's have a look to see what we have actually here. We've got a cigarette lighter socket. We've got the 12 volt connector there for solar. The voltage range on this is 12 to 28 volts, maximum solar input of 200 watts. You've got your regular 12 volt cigarette lighter socket, which is good for 10 amps. You've got 100 watts worth of USB-C, so you can run your MacBook Pro with this particular device. You can charge many modern devices with this. You've got your old school USB-A connectors there as well. And you've got two 110 volt outlets. These are rated up to 600 watts peak. But ideally they're sort of set for 300 watts, so if you've got 300 watt loads with these, you shouldn't have too much of a problem running it. Quick look around the side. You've got a ground attachment here, where if you want to be extra safe, you can attach a ground screw to this, and then you've got your regular IEC connector that you can plug in there. There's no wireless charging on this. You don't have any flashlights on here. You've got your conformity labels on the back with a little bit more specification about the battery that's inside it. This unit has a 204 watt hour battery inside it. So if you used it in one go, you could draw from this around 200 watts for an hour, and then the battery's done, you need to recharge it again. Same goes if you were to run a 300 watt load. You might get somewhere around 35, maybe 40 minutes out of that before it's done. We're going to do some real-world testing with this though, so you get a chance to see just how well this thing actually does. The accessories they give us, we have what looks like a Bluetti certificate. We also have that on the back of the user manual. The warranty behind this is backed by a 5-year warranty. This unit has lithium iron phosphate batteries in it, so you can expect 3,000 or more charge-discharge cycles from this particular unit. Far more superior than many of the other sort of lithium ion battery technologies that are out there. This unit supporting UPS mode means that as a UPS it will probably last a lot longer than the sort of traditional lead acid UPS units that are out there. I run UPSs here on our network and on some of our critical loads, and I'm usually having to buy replacement batteries on those somewhere between every 3 and 5 years. So if we could get 5 years or more out of this, maybe closer to 10, then this is going to be significantly better than any UPS that I currently own. The accessories inside the box, we have the MC4 to the PV input for this particular device, and we've got the IEC, which is used for charging this thing or running it in UPS mode. And then lastly but not least, if you choose to use it, there is a grounding pin in here as well, which basically allows you to attach a ground connection to this. If you're outside, if you're on a campsite or something like that, there might be some danger of a fault because maybe something's got damp or something's got wet. Then you can actually ground this thing out, and that bolt you can see there just attaches to the side, and you can attach a grounding cable to it. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the features of this device. We'll have a look at the features as on this device. We'll give you a close-up view, and then I can show you how the app works on this. Okay, so here are some of the features of the Bluetti AC2A power station. You have the power button, and the first thing you may notice is just how vibrant the LCD display is on this. It's clear. One of the vast improvements that Bluetti's actually made is that you can actually configure this display as to how long you keep it on. I think on some of the older Bluetti products, your limit was probably around maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds. It would always go off at the at the time that you didn't want it to go off, whereas this one you can actually set this. I think you can set it in intervals of maybe sort of 30 seconds or so. You can go up to 5 minutes, or you can go to never. So I'm not quite sure what the actual power consumption of having the display on all of the time. But for me, having the display on all the time helps me identify straight away whether this thing is on all of the time or not. You've got your 12 volt charging, 12 to 28 volts. You can go up to 200 watts maximum. You've got your 12 volt cigarette lighter socket, which is regulated 12 volt, so you can run that up to 10 amps, and we'll do some testing on that in a little while. You've got your 100 watt USB-C, your 2 amp or 2.4 amp USB-A. You've got two of those. You've got your AC, and you've got your DC buttons as well, where you can just go ahead and power this thing up. This is actually rated for 300 watts. Now, in theory, you can peak at 600 watts. This device has a power lifting feature which will allow you to go over the number of watts that you want to draw, but you sacrifice voltage as a result. So if you're running any sort of motor loads or anything like that, then if you're drawing more than 300 watts, there's a chance with power lift enabled, then your load that's running on it will run at reduced power. But it does allow you to sort of run some heavier loads on it. Anyway, let's do a couple of tests on this to see what this unit is actually capable of running. Okay, so I've got a few tests to run on this. Some of them are going to be a little noisy, so we'll start first of all with the quiet, in case you want to turn down headphones or anything else. We have a hair straightener. Not something I would normally use, but you never know. If I go ahead and plug this thing in, power it up, switch on my AC load, just waiting for that to start. I think it may be off here. There we go. So it looks like this may... I thought it was going to settle at around 100 watts, but it's not. It's still going up. 231, 241. I can hear it heating up. And it's now beginning to stabilize, I think. I'm not going to touch it, but I might try it on my hair just for giggles. I believe this is the highest setting that it's on, so let me see if I can turn it down. No, it seems to have an on and an off, and I think it has a thermostat. I can feel that it's hot, and I've got no doubt that it probably is. Yeah, it's hot. Okay, that works. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn that off, and then I have a tool that I often use, and so noise alert. If you're wearing headphones, now's the time to turn it down. This is a heat gun, which is commonly used for shrink wrapping, heating components for test purposes. What we're going to try and do is we'll try and run this thing, and I will put some shrink wrap on my screwdriver, and that will show you what kind of current that we're using, and also that we are actually delivering plenty of heat. So let's go ahead, excuse the noise. What wattage we were using, 275. See it shrinking. We're still going, we haven't tripped this thing out. There we go. So we passed on that one too, and my shrink wrap is looking good. I've got some other equipment here as well which we can try as well. This one is going to be noisy. This is just going to be a regular drill. Okay, I'll put it under the table to quieten it down a bit. That one peaks at about 221 watts. Now I've got no doubt that the wattage that this drill would use would be quite a bit higher if you were actually doing work with it. And this is where the sort of powerlifting feature of it comes into its own. Because while we have an upper limit of around 300 watts on this, the power lift will actually allow you to go a little over that, provided that you know, the drop in voltage, the slight drop in voltage that you're going to encounter isn't going to cause any harm to the equipment that you're using. This one's for the ladies again. This is a test to see whether, you know, you're on travel and you have a need to use a hairdryer. Not something I use very often, but you know, it's a test that's worthwhile. And it's probably worth seeing. It's probably worth us seeing what actually happens when we actually overload this thing. So I've actually got this on the lower setting at the moment, so we can set it to low. And give it a bit more fan as well. Let's give it more heat. And you heard the sound of the fan there, so that's kind of the power lift at work basically, where you are allowed to go a little over the 300 watts, but not by a huge margin. I think this is rated for, it's rated for 600 watt peaks, so it doesn't allow you to run 600 watts for any length of time. So if you had a startup load that would need more than the 300 watts, then you could kind of go over that momentarily. But as you could see just then, once you run this thing over for any length of time, you end up with the AC disconnecting and the lights flashing. Very, very easy to get this thing working again. So let's go ahead and reset it. Press it again, we've now got AC power back, and then lo and behold, So as long as you're willing to run this at its lower setting, now even at 200 plus watts, this thing is actually still producing heat. So if you're in a drier time of year, you know, lowish humidity, then I've got no doubt that you would still be able to dry your hair with this thing. So that shouldn't cause any problem at all. We're going to run some other tests on there to see what happens as well. We'll do some testing on the 12 volt side. We'll also do some testing using simulated solar, just to see how much, you know, power you can really push through this thing. And for fun, we might even do some UPS testing on this thing as well, just to see, you know, how good or how quick this thing is switching over from mains power to battery. So this is the test I wanted to do to simulate solar power that's going into this particular unit, to see when it starts generating how much power that we can actually put into this using the PV port on this thing. And so as you can see right now, we've got 11 volts going into this thing, and we have no power draw on this thing whatsoever from here, because we're still reading 0. I've cranked up the current on here to give us the maximum current that this thing has available, and let's see at which point it will actually start to charge. So this is kind of the territory of where you have a lead acid battery that's settled. It might be, you know, it might settle around, you know, 12 volts. Might not have a lot of charge in it if it's only sitting at 12 volts. See if we can get this up to about 12.5. We're still not getting any power going into the Bluetti product so far. .7, 12.9, so really it's when you hit around 13 volts do you start, you know, increasing current. So right now we're already drawing just over 8 amps basically at 13 volts. So this thing is already starting to charge at almost 100 watts. Let's give it 13.8 or 14. This is where an alternator on a car might produce this voltage. And we're still drawing about 8 amps on this. This power unit is capable of 10, but the wiring setup I have on there, there's a chance that I might have some losses in these wires, which means that I may or may not reach the 10 amps. But we're certainly going to try seeing if we can push the wattage that we have. Let's go ahead and increase it some more. This up to about 18 volts, which might be typical of maybe a single solar panel. (18 volts, that is, while the panel's under load. So this is not counting, you know, the open circuit voltage, but it gives you some idea of how many watts we have coming in. So now we've gone down in amps. We're now down to 7.7 amps. But we're still putting 130 watts into this thing. Let's go ahead and keep this going. Let's go up to about 22 volts. And this might be consistent with maybe a solar panel that you have, that, you know, you have a generous size array. This could be equivalent to 2 100 watt solar panels in parallel. and so you have the wattage going in and you have the voltage going in, but I can see straight away that if you had two 100 watt solar panels, I know the Renogy 100 watt panels, they have a maximum power throughput on each panel of 5 amps, and you can see we're only doing 6. So even if you had two solar panels in parallel, I can see that I'm only getting 130 watts going into the solar generator here. So let's give this a bit more juice. Let's see how we do. Let's give it about 25 volts. And I still only have 131 watts going into this thing. Now the wires here can't be as much of an issue because we're actually putting lower amps in here. Even though we're putting a greater number of watts in here, the number of amps has dropped. So even though my connections here might not be as good, if I was able to pull 8 amps or over 8 amps before, the current draw on these cables is not the issue. So let's go and crank this up some more. So the maximum rated input on this was 28 volts. And at the moment I'm only getting 131. Let's see what the tolerance is to see if we can go over that. Up to 29 already. I don't have much more capacity on this power supply. I think 30 is probably my maximum on here. Let's see whether I can make it to 30. Yeah, we can get as far as 29.12. So our maximum charge rate on solar that we can see on this is 131 watts, and there might be a couple of different reasons for that. And what I'll probably do is I'll pause this test and then I'll do the test again later on. So just a few minutes ago, before charging this thing, we were running some pretty good loads on it. So I think we were peaking at nearly 300 watts. And so if the battery management system on this thing is doing its job, then that might be reducing the input capacity on this thing, and maybe capping us to this 130 or so watts that's going in there right now. So what I'll do is I'll pause this video and I'll let this thing settle and let it come back down to, or let its battery pack come down to room temperature, and we'll see whether I can get some more power to go into this thing. Let's go and reduce the current on this thing as well. We can play around with that on this power supply too. One thing I'm noticing is that this unit is fairly quiet. There's another setting I might play with on this too, and I might see whether we are, there's 3 charging profiles on this. There's actually silent, there's standard, and there's turbo. So what I'll do is I'll pause this video and I'll make sure that we are in standard charge mode, and then we'll try this test again to see whether we can go over that 130 watt threshold. So one moment please. Okay, so we've just learned something in the last just the last couple of minutes. So there were 2 things I learned. One was I could get a little bit more juice out of this power supply, and so we can see what happens when we go over the 30 volt threshold. So you can see what happens. And so then it trips out. If you bring the voltage back down, then it should reset. be looking for a little bit less. Yeah, and it's gone ahead and reset. Now that's going to stabilize at around 131 watts going in, and this is going to be the maximum. So one of the things I verified was the charging profile on this is currently set to standard. So if you take delivery of one of these, that is the charging profile that's used by default. If I change the charging profile, and this is where you're actually better off using the app, this is kind of a little what the interface actually looks like, and then I'm going to screen capture this for you later on so you can see how it works. We're in a standard charge profile at the moment. If we set it to turbo mode, let's set my phone down aside for a second. Let's try, so you can see straight away, look, that we're up to 198 watts charging. So if you're in a hurry to get this thing charged on solar, you can get this going. Now you can also go over the 28 volt limit on this, provided that it's already charging. If you suddenly just show, you know, 28, 29 or 29 volts to this thing, then it's most likely going to trip. But as this is already charging, as long as you don't go over that, say, 29 volt, 30 volt threshold, then you're probably going to be okay. The other thing to bear in mind is that if you're going to continue using the turbo mode on this thing, I would not expect to get the life out of the batteries, you know, as you would if you were on silent or if you were running this thing in standard mode. Anyway, that's our simultaneous or our simulated our simulated solar test done. And what we'll do is we'll try plugging this thing directly into the IEC connector on the side, and we'll see what the charging profiles actually look like there as well, so you can see how fast or how slow this thing is capable of charging. And one of the beauties of the AC2A is that there is no external power brick. The accessories in the box were minimal. We had a cable to attach your solar panels, the MC4 to PV input, and then you had this IEC cable as well. If we plug it in, you can use that cable to charge this device, and the actual profile, the charging profile that this comes in the box, similarly to charging in solar panels, this thing is going to max out at around 128, 130 watts, and that's all you'll get. The plus side is that if you charge lithium iron phosphate batteries at a lower rate, they're probably going to last you a lot longer, to be honest with you. This thing is capable of charging much faster than the 129 watts that it's charging at right now. You see me looking at my phone, I basically have the app, so I can actually see what's on the screen here. But if I change the charging profile on this thing for you, you can see how much faster that you can go with charging this thing up. So we're now 262 watts going in. I don't have an ETA on this thing, so the screen will tell me that probably in around half an hour it's currently forecasting that this thing might be fully charged. The app allows you to do some other stuff too as well. You can switch on your DC loads, you can switch on your AC loads as well if you want to, and I'm just doing that in the app for you now, so you can actually see these lights come on the front. I'm hearing a little bit of fan noise. It's not annoying. I'm sure if I was hearing that for a long time though, then it would probably annoy me in the end. If I change the charge profile to silent mode, the fan stopped immediately, and now we're charging at a rate of 79, 80 watts, which is fine. I must admit, if I was running this in UPS mode, this is probably the mode that I'd probably leave it in, because I probably wouldn't hear any fans running in it. and it might be less aggressive on the battery, you know, especially when the charge level drops a little bit and then the unit decides that it wants to charge itself back up again. The next test seems appropriate to run a UPS test on this to see how this thing does. So one moment please while I just prepare for that, that setup. Okay, so for this test I have a rather old Gateway netbook computer which actually still works well. So what we'll do to make the test fair and valid, we will go ahead and remove the battery, and I'll set that aside. I will plug this in. Let's open the screen. You might not be able to see the keyboard in shot, but let's see whether you can see the screen. Yep. Let's give this some AC power, which it's already got, and let's power this thing up. And I'll just wait a moment for this thing to boot. I'll just wait for it to sit at the login screen, so just in case this thing did crash, it's probably not going to do much harm to the hard drive. And yes, it is Windows 7. Okay, so let's go ahead then. This is currently plugged into mains power. I can see that we have an absolute minimum draw that's coming from this. In fact, the app isn't really measuring how much power that this is actually using, which is actually not uncommon. If you have a really small load, it's quite possible that you might not see any power usage on there. If I was to add something else to it, which I think I will, I have a fluorescent light here, and you'll see why in a second why I chose to use this. Okay, so I wanted to see that the load actually changed on this thing, and now it reckons that we're consuming about 24 watts. Now I can see that there's 108 watts coming in from the grid, so it looks like it's able to still charge the battery in its silent profile, but any extra power draw on this thing it's able to supply. Now I'll unplug this and you might see in a second why I decided to use a fluorescent light in this shot, so let's see what happens. If I can pull this thing out, I'll pull it out from here instead, it's easier. Okay, so you might have saw that just momentarily, but there was a momentary flash as this unit actually transitioned from mains power to battery power, and it's not bad. It just gives you a visualization that there is a transition that's taking place, but that transition is fast enough that it didn't affect the laptop in any way. So let's plug it back in again. And I did see a momentary transition from this again, and then for fun we'll just go and pull power to this thing, and then you might see just a momentary flash from the light again as it transitions back. But it's probably milliseconds. It's a very small delay. It's not a significant delay. Most computer equipment is going to handle that just fine. A fluorescent lamp, however, it's just enough for the arc inside the lamp to collapse. Sometimes it fails, sometimes the light has to restart, but to be able to see them both side by side, then you'll see that most computers have a tolerance for the tiny delay in transitioning from mains power to battery power. These are an absolute steal. I think I saw the list price go up. These haven't been officially released at the time of recording this video. They're out very soon. I think they're out in, they're available for sale very early on in November, and the sale price is less than $180. And the one thing I can share with you wholeheartedly is that, you know, to get a reasonable, you know, UPS you can easily spend upwards of that. So these are kind of a steal really for the actual price point they are. And to give you an idea just how small they are, I'll pause this video for a second and then I'll bring something into shot here to give you some perspective of just how small this thing actually is. So one moment please. Okay, to give you some perspective of just how small this thing is, and this is one of the sort of the big selling features to me. It's just a tiny bit under 8 pounds in weight, so it's very, very lightweight. This is a handbag purse, so to put it in perspective as to how small, you know, how lightweight it is. The kids could carry this around. It's great for running your small loads. I've already tried, you know, using this with, you know, air compressor on the car, you know, to top off tires and things like that. It's great for running your very, very small power tools from. It's great for running, you know, your emergency loads, whether you have a, you know, some lights dotted around the house that you always want to keep running during a power outage. If you had this running in UPS mode, and you had enough of these around the house, then you probably wouldn't even know there was a power outage. Unlike my UPSs, UPSs, they all make noise when the power goes out, and so my little boy is always saying, well, what's all this noise going on, Daddy? These don't make any noise. So, you know, if you had a CPAP machine, if you had an oxygen generator, if you had this plugged in all the time, and you had your, you know, oxygen concentrator plugged in here, or your CPAP machine, then the power could go out, and not only you'd have a pretty impressive runtime from it, but it's going to make no noise when it's transitioning to battery power, and then when the power comes back on again, it's not going to make any noise when, you know, when the switch back is made as well. So anyway, I hope you're enjoying this video so far. Please consider liking and subscribing, because if you like this content, it'll certainly help me to create a lot more of it for you. One thing I should have said is that while Bluetti have actually provided this product, they've given it to me on loan. It belongs to them. They're not financing this video. They're not giving me a script. They just asked me to test it. I'd given them some feedback on some of their other products, and I did ask them if there was ever an opportunity to test any of theirs before, you know, the products go to release. Then please, you know, keep me in mind, and I hope that they will continue to keep me in mind so that I might be able to bring you some more content. Okay, so there's two comparisons here that I wanted to show you. This is the AC2A and this is the EB3A. The EB3A is a little more expensive at the time of recording this video than the AC2A. I think the AC2A, when it's due for release, might have a sale price on there of just under $180. This one right now is $209. This one has more lithium in it. This is a 268 watt-hour battery that's inside here, and this is a 204 watt-hour battery in there as well. The inverter in here will give you 300 watts, and this one will give you 600 watts, and then you have some additional features in here as well. So for instance, you've got the 5mm barrel connectors for 12 volt if you wanted to use it. You have a different input method on these as well. This is the 8mm connection that Bluetti uses. The other difference is that you have on this is that on the top there is a wireless charging pad for you know, charging mobile devices that are compatible with that feature. There's a slightly different market for both of these different devices, and I think they both fit their market really, really well. This one also has a flashlight on there as well, which, as long as you're okay with the additional weight, then you're okay with it. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't say that this is terribly heavy to carry around. You're not going to want to carry this very, very, very far. You're going to know you're carrying it after a while. This one is kind of the sweet spot, you know. you know, your kids could carry it, your significant other could carry it. There's no problem in that regard. And as far as its capacity goes, most of the small loads that I've been able to throw at this thing so far, it's done really, really, really well. I think actually this could be, you know, one of those gift ideas that, you know, that could become very, very popular. I think the price point, you know, $180, you know, there are mobile phones more expensive than that. There are tablets that are more expensive than that. There are UPSs that are more expensive than that. There's, you know, I think my wife's bag that I had in shot was probably more expensive than this as well. So it really is a steal of a deal, actually. I really hope that Bluetti does really, really well with these. I would love to see more of their products in the marketplace. And to give you some idea just how many of their products that I own, I'll pause this video momentarily and I'll go and get some of them for you to see. So coming up in a future video, I'm currently testing the AC180. This one I also brought with my own money. Early testing is very, very good. I haven't yet found anything I can't use on this thing, assuming it's a 110 volt load. Then we have the EB70S, which is one of my older Bluetti devices. There's the EB3A, and then last but not least the AC2A, which is what this video is mostly about. So anyway, these are just some of the Bluetti products I currently own, and seeing their lineup of other products, I'm very, very keen to get my hands on some of those as well. Anyway, thanks for watching so far. Off you go then. The Bluetti AC2A, so small, so lightweight. Even a 10-year-old could carry it. Not even struggling with it, look. Okay, welcome to the Bluetti app. This is running on an iPad, although this will run on iPhones. It'll also run on Android devices as well. For this demo, I'm actually going to go into offline mode. So I'm actually within fairly close proximity of the AC2A. I'm going to go ahead and connect to it. And this is basically what's going on currently with my device. So we have some solar panels connected to it. We're generating about 61 watts at the moment. And then you see we're pulling in 26 watts from the grid. Our charge 61%, and then some of the controls that you have here, you can switch on and switch off your DC loads. I don't think I have anything plugged into DC at the moment, but I do have a lamp that's plugged into the AC load, and you can see that wattage showing up there as well. Battery information, you can have a little look in here. There's a little bit of information that you might be able to get, things like serial number, state of charge, if there's any alarms, error messages, anything going on, you know, with its protection status, you know, if the battery pack's too hot, too cold. This is where you might be able to see some of that information. A couple of other things to note in here as well. You can go into the top right hand side to go into settings. This is where you can change your charging profile. So the primary use for this device for me is going to be to have a couple of these replacing my UPS devices around the house. So this is going to have power backup for, you know, my internet router, cable modem, satellite internet, things like that, telephone. Just to name a few items. And the charging mode is set to silent to minimize the amount of fan noise that's going on there. If you go ahead and change this, I'm going to change it to a much more aggressive charge profile. If I go back in here, you can see straight away that now we are pulling, you know, quite a bit more power basically from grid and from PV. So this thing is charging at nearly 300 watts. It's going to start charging pretty quickly if we leave it this way. For longevity, though, I don't recommend leaving it in turbo mode. For my application, it's silent is going to be fine. Powerlifting is used if you are likely to encounter loads more than 300 watts. It'll allow you to go over, but what's going to happen is that you will end up, reducing some voltage on those loads. So you can certainly try and use it, especially if you're using, motorized loads, resistive loads, things like that. It can be a handy setting to have just to give you a little bit more power than what this thing is normally rated at. Eco mode. Now, if you're running on AC power, then if you're running 10 watts or less, then this unit is capable of shutting itself down if it's on battery mode only, and it will do that in this case after 4 hours. And then you can change the parameters in here if you really wanted to. The same also goes for DC power as well. So you can either set your thresholds in here if you want to. I see the limit is 5 through 10, so okay, that's fine. Or if you want to switch it off altogether, then you can, turn off this auto power off feature as well. The auto sleep, which I've currently got set to never, is the display on the front of this unit. So the actual default it comes with is 30 seconds. I was talking about this a little earlier in my video, assuming I didn't have to cut it out for any reason. But you can see the thresholds here. I think the standard is 30 seconds, but you can set it to 1 minute, 5 minutes, or you can set it to never. So I'm leaving mine on never at the moment. I don't know whether the LEDs in the display will fail prematurely as a result of that, or whether they will continue to work, but maybe sort of less intensity as they age. Anyway, that is your quick overview of the Bluetti app that's used for controlling their more recent Bluetti power generators. This application doesn't control all of them, but certainly does control some of the more recent items that you see currently for sale. This is why I think the AC2A is such a really, really very, very good deal. So for instance, if you were to do a search for UPSs, which is essentially just backup power, you do have a listing here at $49.60, but these generally will have, lead acid batteries in them. And they don't last as long if you have frequent power outages. The batteries don't last very long in these at all. You've got APC here, which is $184.99. So the APC product that's already here has already exceeded the cost of the AC2A. And then just for fun, you kind of got some other comparisons in here as well. You've got Liebert, which is a reputable brand name. You've got APC, which is also a very respectable brand name. APC UPS is basically what I use here at home. And I can keep scrolling through the list, and it kind of gives you some idea on how much money that you can spend. If all you wanted was a UPS, well, the AC2A is basically is a product that does quite a bit more than that. So let's go into here. Let's have a look at their website. So right now they're promoting the AC2A and the AC70, and they've got a variety of solutions in here. So let's have a look here, and we'll pull just a couple of highlights for you. The 2000 watts is relating to the AC70. It's not the AC2A. However, the 45 minutes charge to 80% is true. Portable, it's definitely that. LiFePO 4 or lithium iron phosphate batteries they're generally safer, they're more stable. they last a lot longer than typical lithium-ion batteries. The whisper quiet, yeah, I can definitely attest to that. It's very, very quiet. I haven't measured the actual dBs, but noise most of the time bothers me, and the fan noise from the AC2A does not bother me in the slightest. The UPS switchover, we tested that in our video. The only thing I've never tested, and I've never had need to, I have several Bluetti products, I've never ever needed to deal with their warranty claim service at all. These seem to be robust, they're reliable products. The Bluetti app, smart control, yep, that definitely applies there. The intuitive LCD display is also true as well. Let's have a look here. That is a picture of the AC70 there that's on the left. Let's see if I can reduce the size of this. And then I think they have the AC2A on the right hand side. Now, at the time we're recording this video, there's a special on from Bluetti, and I think the launch price of this is going to be around $180. As soon as I have some links to post in the video, then I will make sure that they're available for you all. But so, my advice to you, get one of these before they're gone. I think they go on sale tomorrow. That would be November 2nd. And provided that you can operate within a 300 watt limit for most of your small devices, the price point on these makes it a fantastic holiday gift, especially with Christmas, New Year, Thanksgiving all around the corner. This is a fantastic gift, to get anybody really. It's not going to be something that you would, regret buying. The 45-minute charge to 80% is kind of a big deal. That's a huge improvement on some of the older devices that are out there. The portability of one of these is just incredible. Knowing that most of your kids will probably be able to carry one of these. The UPS feature makes it particularly useful. The ability to be able to control it using an app is also, quite significant here as well. I've been testing this and there's nothing at all that I've been disappointed with. There's probably a few improvements that I would make to the design of these. And I'm going to be sending a note to Bluetti about what my thoughts are about, what could make this better. But it's really small, they're kind of more grumbles on my part than anything else. There's nothing significant. Most people are going to thoroughly enjoy using this product on a day-to-day basis, and I don't think for a minute there's going to be any disappointment in here. Battery chemistry, you've got the LiPo batteries that are in these. They're safer than the regular lithium-ion batteries. The powerlifting mode is kind of a big deal. Charging and discharging at the same time, yes, you can do that. A couple of FAQs in here as well, and so you've got your wattage limits in there as well, how quickly you can charge. We've seen a video on that, on how quickly it will go. The noise this makes is not significant at all, even if you run this in turbo mode. The app control, we've checked the box on there as well. Solar panels, I think anything really sort of your voltage ranges of 12 to 28 volts. I think the closer you get to the 28 volts, the more efficient, and you might get most of the 200 watts going in there, as we were testing earlier on. I haven't got my hands on the AC70 yet. I'd love to get one. MC4 connectors, they're fairly standard. You get those cables in the box, so you don't need much there. I didn't test anything about waterproof. No, I didn't think it was waterproof. The charging in sub-zero temperatures, you can power, but recharging this is standard for this battery chemistry. I don't think it matters which manufacturer you go to. You'll encounter the same issue. Laying on its side, no. Let's have a look. It says the may damage the internal structure. Please keep it in an upright position, either storage or moving. Yep, that seems fair. Is it possible to replace the inbuilt battery? I've wanted to take mine apart, but I haven't done so because the device I'm testing actually doesn't belong to me. So anyway, this is a good question as well. The expansion batteries. The AC70 does, but that's not what we were testing here anyway. But I think the AC2A is more than capable because it's got that pass-through charging. You might be able to have a lithium iron phosphate battery externally, and then you connect it directly to the PV input, provided that you're not trying to draw more than 200 watts. You're going to use mostly the external battery that you're connecting into it. Anyway, that completes my review. I just want to express my heartfelt gratitude and thanks to Bluetti for allowing me to test this product. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I wholeheartedly recommend it. If you have any questions, comment in the chat below. Leave your contact information if you're comfortable in doing so. Or I can just respond directly to the comments. Thank you for watching. I don't think I'm ever going to get tired of seeing a Bluetti box outside my front door, waiting to be tested, used, enjoyed. I hope this video will give you some insight as to what delights that you might get from one of these Bluetti solar generators.